Hi, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to decorate and stack a two-tier wedding cake with buttercream icing. So here I've got my thin plastic dowels. I just ordered those off of Amazon, and I can cut those with wire cutters, pliers, scissors, whatever you feel comfortable using. And then I just mark one in the center of that cake to get the right size, and then I measure the rest of them by that one dowel. And then I'm using an edible ink marker to mark where I want to make that cut. And then I just stick them back into the cake. And then I'm gonna grab my 6-inch round and I'm gonna place it on top. But I do put a little bit of buttercream like right here just to kind of glue that cake on there. Now I have just a wooden skewer that you can buy at the grocery store, and I've cut that to the size that I want to go down through both tiers and kind of keep them together. And then I just hammered those in and covered it up with a little bit of buttercream on top. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of buttercream to my top tier to get a thicker coat and make sure I cover all of my cake underneath. And you don't have to do it this way. A lot of the times I will ice that 6-inch round before I stack it. But because on this particular cake, the bottom tier, as you can see, is not finished yet because I have to put a texture on that. I just wasn't worried about it. I knew I wouldn't mess up the bottom tier by doing this since I wasn't done with it yet. So I decided to go ahead and ice it while it was still stacked. That is a little bit difficult to do sometimes, so don't feel like you have to do that. And then, so now I've just got my buttercream spatula and I'm just getting my icing on there and trying to get it as evenly as possible. The next step would be to use a scraper, like a bench scraper, and smooth that out. I did forget to video that portion of the cake, the scraping, but don't forget I do that also. Now you're gonna see me go onto that bottom tier. So this is what I was talking about with adding texture. This is a large rose tip is what I would call it. Almost if you were gonna use this tip to put a buttercream rose on a cupcake or something like that, that's the tip I'm using. So it's much larger than, like, let's say tip 104 that you would normally use for a general buttercream rose on your cake. So there is no pattern to this. I am literally just going back and forth. You want to go side to side, up and down, at a diagonal. You want it to look like fabric, so don't think too much about the pattern you're using. And then I'm going around the top here just to kind of seal off all those little sections where you can see the top edge of the cake. So here, after the cake is crusted for maybe 5 minutes, I just went back with a Viva paper towel and just barely touched the edges if there were any flyaway pieces. I did not press really at all because I didn't want to damage those ruffles. Now I'm adding a big flower. I'm not even sure what kind of flower you would call this, but the tip that I'm using here is it's large like the tip I was using before, but instead of being flat like a rose tip on the end, it is kind of in a U shape. With a little metal piece that kind of holds over it. And I can actually attach the tip number into my video notes at the end of this video so you can actually see what I'm talking about, because I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But it does a really cool rose, a little bit more modern look than like a typical flower would look in buttercream. And then I'm doing some on top as well. You can add a center point to these flowers, like a different color if you wanted to. But because this is a wedding cake, I didn't want to add too much color, so I pretty much just stuck with the white. And then I'll go back shortly and add like a blush pink one to the front of this cake. But really, you just keep going back and forth around the flower until you get it the size that you want. After they crust for a couple of minutes, you want to go back with a Viva paper towel like I'm doing here and just open up some of those petals, just pull them back a little bit to give it a more realistic look.